Alright guys, we are going to do a very quick overview of phrases and clauses and the different types of sentences, and it's going to be very quick. And we do these because this is the foundation of problems with fragments and run-ons. If you don't understand the different types of sentences, that can be really problematic. First thing to remember, so important, is what is a sentence in the first place? Well, a sentence is simply anything that has a subject, a verb, and a complete idea. Just remember that is the foundation of a sentence. Jesus wept, shortest sentence in the Bible. Verb, wept. Who wept? Jesus. Subject, verb, complete idea. I like ice cream. I like what ice cream? Direct object. Remember, that's not necessary, but just to note, that is a really important thing. Okay, this is a complete sentence. It has a subject, it has a verb, it has a complete idea. After class, I must do homework. Again, must do what? Homework. Who must do it? I. Subject, verb, complete idea. After class just tells us when. She is nice. Predicate, adjective, nice describes she, subject. Is linking verb. Janet and Kate are hunting and fishing. Again, we have verb, are hunting and fishing. Who are hunting and fishing? Janet and Kate. Each one of these shares the same thing. They all have subjects, verbs, and complete ideas. Now, a clause is not the same thing as a subject, but they are the building blocks, or excuse me, they're not the same thing as a sentence, but they're the building blocks of sentences. A subject and a verb are all that is required for a clause. There are two different types of clauses. There are main or independent clauses, what I like to call mama clauses. They can be alone. They are the subject, verb, complete idea. So they could be a sentence all by themselves. However, there's also something called a dependent, or what we also call a subordinate clause. I like to think about it like a baby. Mom can be by herself, baby cannot. What happens to baby when he's left alone? He starves to death. We don't want that. A baby would always have to be with a mom, and we'll look at that in just a minute. So this is going to be subject and verb, but no complete idea. For instance, this is your mama clause, a complete sentence, this is what we would be considering, as I said, a main or independent clause. I like ice cream. However, we have these things called subordinating conjunctions. When we add them to the front, like because, all of a sudden we lose the complete idea. I like ice cream because I like ice cream. Notice we still have subject and verb, I like, but the word because, we know there needs to be something else here. This is a subordinating conjunction. That's what makes this a baby clause or a subordinate clause, dependent clause, whatever you want to say. It doesn't make sense by itself. It has a subject and verb, but no complete idea. Again, here, you will go to the store. That makes sense by itself. Subject, verb, complete idea. But look at this one. If you will go to the store. We know that something else needs to follow to make it make sense, right? If you will go to the store, I will give you money, right? So that always, when there's a baby clause, a subordinate clause, a dependent clause, whatever you want to call it, it has to be linked to a mother clause, to an independent clause. The mom does not. She can be alone. Dependent clauses don't need that. I will finish editing my paper. That makes perfect sense by itself. It is independent, can be all by itself. But then look at this one. After I finish editing my paper. Again, you know something else has to be there. That's the difference between a main clause and a dependent clause. A dependent clause has to be connected to something else. It doesn't make sense by itself. It's lacking the complete idea. Why does this matter? It matters because we have four types of sentences and they can have variants of baby and mama clauses. The first one is called the simple sentence. It's going to be very straightforward, very easy. Subject, verb, complete idea. Compound sentences, where we're going to put two moms together using a comma conjunction or a semicolon. Complex. This is, I always think of mom and baby have a complex. You think about your parents, you got a complex relationship. This is where we have a baby and a mama together. And then compound complex, which is at least two moms and at least one baby. So we'll look at that in just a second. Simple sentences are simple. Subject, verb, I live in San Francisco. It has a subject, it has a verb, okay? That's all it is. No babies, no other moms, it's one complete idea. Compound sentences you probably know too. Two complete ideas, okay? We have an independent clause, she works in the city. Then we have another independent clause, she lives in the suburbs, or excuse me, she works in the city, but she lives in the suburbs. They're joined together by a comma and conjunction. That's called a compound sentence. You've probably seen that a million times growing up. Comma conjunction, because without this, it's a run-on sentence. You can't have two mamas together in a sentence without a comma conjunction. Otherwise, that's what a run-on is. You can also use a semicolon or a transition. Let's look at this. Semicolons, just remember this, are used to link similar sentences, things that have things going together. I love living in the city. There are so many things to do. The semicolon here functions just like a period. Keep that in mind. It functions just like a period, just like a comma conjunction does. So we have two independent clauses joined by a semicolon, just like a comma conjunction, and this is a compound sentence. So, just like we saw before, two independent clauses joined here by a conjunction, what we call a coordinating conjunction. And if you look at it, here they're using so. He couldn't watch the show, so he decided to tape it. Subject verb, he decided. Subject verb, he couldn't watch. Joined together here with a comma conjunction. Remember, but and or, sorry about that, and but and or are not your only conjunctions. They're not your only conjunctions. Think of fanboys. In fact, I think that's here. For, and, nor, but, or, and yet. Any of these, oh, and so. Any of these can be used to make compound sentences with a comma, okay? Any of them. So that's fanboys. Okay, now be careful here. A lot of students like to put commas with any conjunction. Remember that commas with conjunctions are between two complete sentences, two moms, okay? The necklace was beautiful but expensive. But expensive is not a sentence. It has to have a subject. Now if it said it was expensive, that would be comma conjunction. But just this one word alone does not make it a compound sentence. Okay, it's just compound adjective, actually. That's it. So just remember, it has to have two complete sentences on, or excuse me, one complete sentence on either side of the conjunction for it to be a compound sentence. A smart thing to do that I'm only going to quickly is that whenever you use, and we may look at this at the end if we have a minute, you may also use a transition word with your semicolon. I love San Francisco, however, I hate the traffic. So semicolon is good enough to make it not a run-on, but to make it work nicer, you can use a transition like however or furthermore, something like that. And again, we may look at a list at the end, but just as a reminder that that's something you can do. But it still goes back to, again, the semicolon here is what's acting like a period. Complex sentences, a mom and a baby. Remember that a baby clause cannot function by itself. This bottom part down here, because the wall has no outlet. Subject and verb, the wall has. Okay, it has a subject and a verb, but because of this word because, it doesn't make sense by itself. If we took out the word because and just said the wall has no outlet, that would be fine. But this subordinating conjunction because takes away the meaning. It means it has to be tied to a mom. John cannot set up his typewriter because he has no outlet. So the mom clause, excuse me, the baby clause here, the subordinate clause, has to be tied to the independent clause for it to make sense. So this is complex. Remember, baby and mama have a complex relationship. You cannot have a baby clause by itself, a dependent clause by itself. It has to be tied to an independent clause. Just another example here. She will go to school in the city until she finds a job. Same deal. Independent clause up here. She will go to school in the city. Tied to dependent clause down here. Until she finds a job. This baby has to be tied to this mom. Again, if it just said she finds a job, that would be a complete sentence. It's the word until that makes it a baby. That's what makes it dependent. That subordinating conjunction. Okay. Just a reminder, this is just a little piece of information. If the baby clause starts the sentence, it's followed by a comma. You'll notice on the last one, there was no comma when the baby was at the end, but if it starts the sentence, we do that. When I first moved to the city, comma, I was afraid to drive the steep and narrow streets. When the baby clause starts the sentence, comma after it, and then go into your mom. So this is complex as well. And just remember, if the baby clause is at the beginning, a comma follows it. Compound complex is exactly what it sounds like. It involves at least one baby and two moms. So it has to have down here, comma, conjunction, or semicolon. I started a new job and I bought a car. Two sentences brought together with comma conjunction. That makes it compound. Aha, here's the baby up here. That's what makes it complex. After I moved to Vance in the fall, comma. So here's baby, mama, mama. So we got compound, and then the baby up here makes it complex. That's all it is, no complication there. If it contains at least two moms joined by a semicolon or a comma conjunction and at least one baby, it's compound complex because obviously it has both together. Okay? Some quick examples here. My mother and father listen and care. If you pause and think about it for a second, what kind is this? This is just a simple sentence. We just have subjects, mother and father, and verb. Listen and care. That and none of them introduces a new sentence, so there's no complex or compound. The boss is angry, so I will stay out of his way. This one is a compound sentence. Comma conjunction here, comma so. Subject verb, boss is. Over here, I will stay out of his way. So two complete sentences joined by a comma conjunction, that's compound. Megan, who is my sister, is nice. This one is complex. We got a complete sentence, Megan is nice, and in the middle of it we have this baby clause, who is my sister. Who is the subject and is the verb, and it doesn't make sense by itself. Or this one, since you are kind, I will help you, but you cannot tell anyone because people will be jealous. And pretty obviously this one is compound complex. We got a baby here. Since you are kind is the sentence, but since makes it a baby. I will help you is a mama clause. Subject verb, I will help. And then we got comma conjunction, comma but. You cannot tell anyone. That's a complete sentence. You cannot tell. And then another baby. Remember, there can be at least one baby, more than one, because people will be jealous. People will be, subject verb, and the word because makes it a baby clause. Okay, so this one is definitely compound complex. Okay, and I'm just going to leave these up here for 10 seconds because I want to show you your practice, but here you have some more transitions you can use with your semicolons, such as moreover, furthermore, in addition, besides, however, indeed, consequently, you see here. So just a little bit of information there. Okay, now let's look at your homework piece. In your homework piece, I only have a minute to go over it. Your first lesson here is just between main and subordinate clauses. So again, remember main is mom, subordinate is baby. So if you look at number 1, after the storm cleared, the flight took off. So just ask yourself, which part makes sense by itself? After the storm cleared, the flight took off. The flight took off makes sense by itself. It doesn't have that word in front of it that makes it a baby clause. This one does, it's after. If it just said the storm cleared, that makes sense. That would be an independent clause, but this is the subordinate conjunction. We'll do one more. You will learn to speak Spanish if you practice. So again, here, your main clause is over here. You will learn to speak Spanish. There's no word in front of it that makes it a baby clause, but here, the word is if you practice. That word if makes it a baby clause. So that's all you're doing here is identifying the subordinate clauses and the main clauses. This one's pretty straightforward and simple. Your next exercise is to circle main clauses and subordinate clauses, very much the same. So the kitten ran when the children came near. So here you're going to be underlining the main clause, which is the kitten ran, and circling the baby clause when the children came near, again, because of this word when. When is the subordinate clause. The children came near makes sense by itself. The word when makes it a baby, so you would circle that bit. Your next section, having to hurry, is just simple and compound. So again, if you look at number 1, the polio vaccine was developed by Jonas Salk and Albert Sabin. Of course, there's going to be people I can't say, but you'll notice, guys, this is a simple sentence. There's no comma conjunction or a semicolon with another sentence. Let's see. Let's look at one. Number 3, we watched the baseball game and we went for ice cream afterward. Complete sentence on this side, we watched the baseball game. Complete sentence on this side, we went for ice cream afterward. And then moving on, you have your complex and compound complex sentences. For instance, down here, you're going to be underlining and seeing which ones are just complex and which ones are compound complex. So until they were called home, the children played happily. So that's just complex because here's baby until they called home, and here's mom, the children played happily. And here we have one number 2 that's compound complex. When we went to the opera, so there's a baby, we went to the opera, but the word when makes it a baby. We saw Pavarotti, there's your complete sentence, but comma conjunction, but we didn't get to see Domingo, comma, and then another mama clause on the other side. So that one's compound complex. All right, guys, please just email me if you have any questions. And I wish you the best of luck. If there's any questions with your homework or the content, just let me know.